Hey everybody, Brian Good here. Lots to discuss, so let me dive right into all the details. Here's the latest update from the Storm Prediction Center for the outlook today. Slight risk for the Louisville area. The enhanced risk has been pushed a bit more to the south to include Seymour, and I would say on the north side of Madison, all the way into Carrollton and just north of Eminence, Kentucky. Now in the enhanced area, and then the moderate, pretty much in the same spot, including Cincinnati and Indianapolis, and then slight risk, or marginal, south and west of Louisville. So it's still a tiered setup here, where the core of the system is going to pop later on toward the evening and track southeast. And what they have done is given a buffer zone, north and south, on either side of that track to for any adjustment that may take place as it develops and bombs to the south and east, because these are not set in stone. So we've got to get it to develop first, and then we'll be able to track the path and get a better handle on who's in the danger zone, really, for some of these strong winds, especially later today. Speaking of that, here is a breakdown on the tornado potential for this. Anytime you see a hatched area, that is where we're talking about significant tornado potential. We'll talk about that in a second. Otherwise, 5%, which is, relatively elevated, and that's right in the path, Indianapolis to Cincy, and then about a 2% along the I-71 corridor and counties into Indiana. Now, here's the bigger threat, though, more than tornadoes, is the widespread potential for 75 to 85 mile per hour winds that will rake across the Ohio Valley this evening and overnight. Now, the core of that is going to be in the pink area, where it's about 45% chance of any given spot. And it's hatched, which means significant winds, as I was talking about, 75 to 85 can occur. Notice that 30% does fall a little further to south to include just up against the north side of their Louisville Metro. Louisville now in the 15%, and then it drops off to the south there. But it's not doesn't mean anything differently than what I just told you. It's still an issue of the path, and how close we'll be to the path determines how much we are going to be involved in this scenario. All right, and as far as large hail, possibility initially with the supercell structure, but once this becomes more of a complex, a linear type of complex in Boeing segments, your hail threat pretty much diminishes after that. So it's only the initial stage, and around Chicagoland, Illinois, they need to worry. So let me show you two of the high-res models and what they think on the path and development of this, and we'll go into detail. Well, before I do that, let me mention tomorrow's outlook, which is about to be updated in about 20 minutes, so it'll be updated probably before the blog even gets posted. Right now, slight risk to the east. Still think it needs to be more to the west, but I can understand the hesitation because we really got to nail down how this is going to evolve tonight before we get into tomorrow, but it's a moot point there. All right, let's talk about the models that we do have here. First off, the latest look at the radar trends since this morning to this afternoon. We had that batch of thunderstorms, very photogenic, shelf cloud. A lot of you were armed and ready with your camera phones taking pictures of that. That has now moved off to the east, but the warm front is what this is all going to ride on. We're going to see thunderstorms. The big complex I was just referring to is going to develop at some point this afternoon, evening, and then track on the very northern edge of the warm front, or the northern edge of the higher dew points. And that, at the moment, is located right in through here. So the front, though, the warm front itself, is still moving to the northeast. So by the time they develop, the warm front should be generally in this location, and that will be the general path they will take. But that's the reason why the path is uncertain, because if the front does not pick up some steam here and get into Ohio, then the path of where it is now will be the path it'll take later on this afternoon and will overnight tonight, and that would then impact some of our counties here in Wave Country. So that's why there's still some hesitation until it pops, and we need to figure out where the warm front is. The clouds so far have limited our heating, yes, but we have plenty of time. Keep in mind, we're in the summertime season now. We got a lot of daylight left to go. So while we are struggling temperature-wise, we're 75 here. Look at the 90s, 94 in St. Louis, about 90 in Bowling Green. We're seeing the clouds already begin to thin out. It won't take long for us to heat back up again. More than likely, though, being so close to the warm front, it's not going to take much for new development of thunderstorms to pop as a result. So we're going to keep the thunderstorm chance in for this afternoon. If I had to nail it down across a certain area, I still think it's going to be right in this general vicinity, that a new development of thunderstorms for this afternoon, not associated with the event tonight, would happen here. And that very well could knock us back down temperature-wise this afternoon, especially east of Louisville. So we'll monitor that for the afternoon, and of course we'll keep an eye on tonight. So let's get into the model data now. Here is the HER model, high-res model, showing that this afternoon potential is there for that redevelopment right around the Louisville area, Frankfort, heading to eastern Kentucky this afternoon into the evening. The complex here to the north hasn't even popped yet at 6:30, according to this model. But watch, it doesn't take long. It'll eventually begin to pop, blossom with supercells, then rake itself to the southeast into Ohio. Now, first thing about that that caught my eye is it develops it way north of Chicago and then brings it down. That to me seems too far north. We'll evaluate that. I think it's going to be a little more over in here where it gets going, but we'll see how that plays out because the initiating point is true as well in the angle. Here is the RPM model showing that this afternoon it shows the idea like the Herd model. Redevelopment of thunderstorms, mainly on the backside of that early morning MCS that came through, so that's a possibility of redevelopment. And then tonight, thunderstorm complex races in. Now it is also taking it toward Ohio. Very little involvement into Indiana. And that continues to be the case all the way through 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, here's good and bad news on that. Now, if this were to be the actual reality of what could happen, and it could be, then it will likely leave a tail in through here. We also have the boundary, the front, on this side that's also dropping down, but it knows how silent it is. But there's also a tail here on the MCS that'll be left behind. So this will be a crucial factor as we get into Thursday morning. If this MCS tonight avoids a good chunk of wave country, that means that tomorrow morning we will have some debris cloud cover, but fairly thin. So we're going to get a strong amount of heating early in the day tomorrow, and that's not good because thunderstorms will react to that along the front itself, and then we'll start to get thunderstorms and in some cases some cells, supercells, likely initiate along the front as well before they push south of us into the evening hours on Thursday. So MCS hitting us tonight a little closer to our area may help us somewhat tomorrow in limiting our impact, or at least push it down more into an angle like this for development tomorrow afternoon and leaving Louisville and north, in fact a good chunk of us in north, in the clear tomorrow. But with the MCS going into Ohio, that would then leave a good chunk of the areas along and south of the Ohio River at risk for tomorrow. So there's good and bad, depending on which day you want to have this event to take place when it comes to damaging weather. In the short term, I am monitoring the Capes here, the instability. It's hard to see this, but here's Louisville right here. It is showing that we do regain some instability this afternoon, leading to the new development. Shear this afternoon. It is already strong enough to produce some damaging thunderstorms in our area, but look at that 70-knot shear in Illinois. That's why I think they're going to initiate more in this area and head south, not up here into Wisconsin like some of the models are picking out. So I think they're a little off track. And that development over Illinois concerns me, and that's the reason why I think SPC also moved a little further to south, that its impact could be more along I-71 in Cincinnati versus central Ohio. We'll see. But still, a tremendous amount of shear. 70-knot shear in the spring is even impressive. Summer even more so. Looking at helicity values, the amount of turning in the atmosphere. Usually the magic number for me is about 250, 300, and you can see it's about 400 in Illinois. So yes, there's some turning. So therefore, the tornado potential is also fairly high. And the initiating point, because these are going to plop as supercells at first. That is where your big tornadoes, if they're going to happen, are going to happen then. Large hail, softball size potentially. It'll happen then. Then once everything gets going and these thunderstorms, these big supercells tap into the wind shear, they all bump into each other and they form one big band of thunderstorms. Large complex. A lot of terms already been thrown about deratios. Keep in mind, deratio is what a classification is of a high wind event after it happens, not before it happens. So this would be an MCS, complex of thunderstorms, if it did sustain itself over certain many miles and time, and Weather Service determines that, and then it would get the classification of a deratio later. Either way, high winds, a big problem with that. So let's say the case is that the models are right and it's going to develop into Ohio later tonight, MCS. Then this is what the NAM's going with. It's going with the development of supercells right along the Ohio River. And there's quite a bit of instability, too, that develops. I mean, we're talking about capes well over 2,000 to 3,000 along ahead of the front there. That's a tremendous amount of instability ahead of the front, with temperatures perhaps getting close to 90, if not higher. Supercell index, it's not off the chart as it will be for Illinois tonight, but it is elevated along the front. So if these cells can't become supercellular, there is a chance that we may see some large hail in a few cases, and there could be a brief tornado. Can't rule that out. In fact, the sounding from the NAM is indicating the potential for a tornado, mainly because of the low LCL here. The condensation level very low. The dew points are very high, so if you get any type of rotation, it won't take much for a funnel cloud to drop, and it's already at the ground. That's how low these cloud bases are. Just like you saw this morning with that thunderstorm, without the shear though. This would have the shear with it and very low to the ground, so that's why the tornado potential is a little higher. Doesn't mean tornadoes are likely, it just means if they were to start spinning, they're not far from the ground and can become problematic there. So we'll watch that. And what's interesting is even the GFS sounding, same deal. So the model's in pretty good agreement so far. All things are going to evolve. I'm not sold yet on where this complex in Illinois is going to pop tonight and track. We'll have to take it hour by hour and do a nowcasting kind of a thing with this. So stay tuned for a lot of updates as we get through this afternoon tonight. So stay close to the forecast. This is not set in stone at what I just showed you. It will likely change. Stay tuned. We'll keep an eye on it.